Hey guys, welcome to Writer's Workshop. Miss Curtis here again. We are at the start of a brand new unit called Notebooks to Projects. We're going to be bringing our notebooks back to life. Teaching point for today is that writers collect a lot of different entries by brainstorming what's on your mind, exploring what's most important to you, and taking back the power in your notebooks. What are we trying to achieve today? We want to discover how writers generate ideas for writing entries. Find out what matters most to you and bring your notebooks back to life. We've spent most of this year focusing on units that we've made you focus on, right? We had narrative unit where we had to write stories. We had our wonderful literary essay where we wrote opinion essays and argument essays, and we move then into extended response. This is a time for you guys to get back to writing about things that you want to write about, writing in genres that you want to write in. As always, we're going to be following the writing process step by step. So this first couple lessons for this unit, we're going to be focusing on collecting entries. How can we create a writing project that means something to us if we don't stop and think about what matters to us? So I have a bunch of entries that I wrote last week that I'd like to share with you guys. Okay, so first when I got started, I thought to myself, what's on my mind? What's really on my mind? And so I dove into my first entry last Monday, and I had just realized that I got into a little bit of an argument with my brother. And so this was my entry. Just yesterday, I had a long conversation with my brother about everything going on in the world. We disagreed a lot about the facts and what we're hearing in the news. I think the thing that upset me the most was that he could not agree to disagree with me. I think it is all right for people to feel and think differently. Why is it that people so badly need others to agree with their opinion or position? First, I stated how I felt and what I believed. Then he did the same, making sure to counterclaim my ideas. He became more disagreeable as I continued to agree to disagree. He got so upset that he had to hang up the phone. This is a true story. So not only am I writing an entry that means something to me, my brother's relationship with me means a lot to me, but I'm also kind of writing it in the form of a story down here. So I got some of my thoughts out, my opinions, how I feel, and I also turned it into a little story here. Then my next entry on Tuesday, I found this really cool article. I know you guys all read it last week for our free write. Alone no more, people are turning to dogs, cats, and chickens to cope with self-isolation. So that's what I used. That's what I was really thinking about in that moment. It's so nice to see some news articles that aren't all negative. During this time, it's hard to stay positive. I read an article about helpful animals, how helpful animals are during this time. More and more families are adopting animals to help them through this hard time. I know my family's 2 dogs and cats are really nice to have around right now. We get to still take the dogs for short walks in the neighborhood. The cats are really nice to have to cuddle up with on the couch and watch a movie. The article mentions a woman who had chickens for pets in anticipation of an egg shortage. This must be so nice for the animals that normally wouldn't get adopted. On average, shelters are experiencing a rise in adoptions during this time. That's so great to hear. So again, I read this article in planning for Friday's free write last week, and I just thought, let me free write about that because that was important to me. Hearing something positive in the news during this time and realizing that my animals meant a lot to me led me into my next entry. So here I wrote about my dog, right? So I don't know, I'll just read it. My last entry got me thinking more and more about my animals. My favorite pet in the house, Lola, isn't feeling well. She seems to be developing a bad rash, and she is also seeming very under the weather. It got me thinking how much she means to me and my family. We've had so many good experiences with her. She has always helped to help make us feel safe at home with her on guard. She is also really fun in the dog park. She plays fetch up and down the steps in Prospect Park. That's always been really fun. I'm not sure what our family would do if something was to happen to her. So not only did I add a little picture of her for you guys to see, that's my Lola Bola, but I also added a little sketch. During this time, You can add drawings and sketches to your notebook. As long as it helps you kind of brainstorm those ideas about what you're really thinking about, then it's totally okay. Remember that this unit, you're guiding your notebooks. You're the ones in charge of where your writing goes, okay? Then last but not least, when I thought about walking my dog in the neighborhood, I started to think about how much my neighborhood means to me. So my entry the next day after that, I wrote a poem about my neighborhood and about how the streets must miss us so much. We will be back. Streets full of nothing but silence and calm. Streets that were once busy and full of life. Oh, how these streets were once full of heartbeats and laughter. The people you once loved have left you with no explanation why. Long, dark nights with no soul in sight. You long for the life you once have. We will be back. And this is a picture I added of Times Square, empty. If you know Times Square in New York, you know that it's always been full of life and tons of people, New Yorkers and tourists alike. I have my little miss you too emoji because I know we're all feeling it with this quarantine staying inside. So between my poem, my story about my dog and how much he means to me, and that she's sick, my story about that news article, and then also the writing that I wrote about my brother and the argument we had. I want you guys to stop and think really quickly. What did you notice from looking at my notebook? I'll give you a second. So some things you might have thought of was that I wrote a lot of entries, right? So in a matter of 4 days, I have 4 entries about different things in various lengths. I wrote about important topics to the writer, meaning to me. So you guys should be writing about important topics to you. And then I wrote in different ways. I had a chance to write a poem. I sketched something out. I added pictures. I had a story about something that happened with me and my brother. And I had lots of thoughts. That one day where I just wrote about that interesting article and my ideas. So we can write in various ways during this unit. We're going to be writing to find out what's important to us so that we can then explore it to create a writing project. So I want you to think really quickly. Just take a minute to stop and think. What's on your mind? Not mine, not your sister's, not your brother's, not your mother's. What's on your mind? What are you really thinking about? Take a second. And just think. Now that you've had a second to think about it, I want you to go over again our teaching point and what we're going to do for this writing workshop today. Teaching point for today was that writers collect a lot of different entries by brainstorming what's on your mind, exploring what's most important to them, and taking back the power in your notebooks. What are we trying to achieve? To discover how writers generate ideas for writing entries. Find out what matters most to you and learn the power you have with your own writing. Our success criteria for today, step 1, you're going to start your first notebook entry brainstorming about anything on your mind. Don't worry about what kind of writing it is. It can be a song, lyrics, poetry, sketching, stories, people and places that matter to you. Just write. Last but not least, you want to make sure that you're pushing yourself to write a lot. In order for us to move forward with this writing project unit, we're going to have to really get to the heart of what matters to us, each of us individually. I'm not in control anymore. Your teachers are not in control. You are in control. And so last but not least, if you want to step up the rigor, try writing a second entry about something else on your mind. Make sure to write a lot. Good luck, guys.